All right, what's up, fight fans, and welcome back to the KJ MMA show. I'm Ryan Drell, joined by Garrett Kerman, as always. And right now, we have the head coach of the New England Cartel and the owner of Top Game Management on the show, Tyson Chartier, on the show. Tyson, how are you?
Doing good, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. It's nice to see you, and things are going great for you in the New England Cartel. Obviously, Rob and Calvin stars just keep on rising, and we have now another big fight. Rob Font fighting Chito Vera. How do you like this matchup?
I love the fight. It's you always like to try to fight up when you can, but it's not realistic because every time one guy's fighting up, one guy's fighting down. So, um, you know, it, stylistically, I think it's a favorable matchup for us. But at this level, anybody can win on any given night. I just think if we fight a certain way, we should have a really, really good chance of winning. And I also think it's a super fun fight for the fans. Cheeto's never in a boring fight. Rob's proven that he's an exciting finisher, and even when he doesn't finish, he's in exciting fights, win or lose. So I think it's going to be a really cool main event for the fans at the Apex, and hopefully we get a big local crowd that shows up there and buys those expensive tickets, and they're cheering for us.
Now, were you guys hoping for someone else? You talk about wanting to fight up, and obviously Rob is ranked 5, Cheeto's not 8 or 9, I believe. So, was there someone else that you guys had your eyes on that you were hoping to fight, or is Vera someone that you just thought would make sense for right now?
No, I thought maybe we'd get Sandhagen just because we were both unranked, and he's I think 4 and we're 5, so and we're both coming off losses, so it kind of makes sense. But it doesn't really matter who you fight. You just got to keep winning. And it doesn't matter who we want to fight because we're gonna at the end of the day you fight who the UFC tells you to fight. So, um, yeah, I mean, you always want to try to fight up, but like you said, you can't always fight up. So, you know, we got a 5 versus 8 matchup. Last time we did that was against Giga in January, and it worked out really well for us. So hopefully we go knock out the number 8 guy. Cheeto's got some juice and some momentum behind him, so we go take him out. I think it sets up a really big fight for us next.
As far as that Jose Aldo fight goes, obviously, this is one of the best ever that we've ever seen, regardless of weight class. What's the takeaway from that one as a head coach for Rob?
I just think that we belong there, and it's a lesson learned that whoever makes the first mistake at this level will generally lose. And we kind of let our guard down a little bit at the end of that first round, and it cost us. He landed a big shot, and we kind of wore it for the next 4 rounds, and it cost us. Um, but you can't hang your head on that. You also got to realize you were just in there with one of the best guys to ever do it, arguably one of the best 45ers to ever grace the octagon. And Rob went 25 minutes with him with a broken orbital and was rocked in the first round, and still like did good enough to make Aldo wrestle. So I think it was a pretty close fight. The scorecards don't reflect how close maybe it was, and I think it's just, if anything, you leave that saying like, okay, we know we can beat the guys like that. It just didn't happen that night.
If what didn't happen in the first round, if that never transpired, and Rob never got cracked like that, do you believe that stylistically the way that Rob fights and how long he is and how he utilizes his boxing, do you feel like that was a fight that you guys really could have won towards the end, or do you feel like that was a more difficult fight for him compared to other guys in the division?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that first round, I'm pretty sure we were winning the whole first round up until we got cracked with 30 seconds left. So that crack doesn't happen. We go sit on the stool with winning the round with momentum. Aldo goes back to that stool a little bit frustrated. His coaches are going to start yelling at him. You got to pick up the pace. You can't just stand there, blah blah blah. And then if we come out and start steamrolling again in the second round, generally when Aldo's been in fights like that, he tends to fade. And I think we could have seen a little bit of that. We had momentum, and momentum kills in this sport. And unfortunately, we had momentum for 4.5 minutes, and he took it away with one punch. And that's just the beauty of this sport, is that fight's never over till it's over. So I think had that shot not landed, I think we really could have just kept putting that foot on the gas pedal and hopefully warm down and eventually get a finish. But we were prepared to go 5 if needed. But I think we did come up with the right plan. I think overall, Rob did have the right execution. It's just that Aldo landed a really good shot, and got something that we'll take into the next camp to try to make sure it doesn't happen again.
How was Rob's confidence after that fight? Was it still very high?
Yeah, I mean, you go 5 rounds with one of the best strikers to ever fight MMA. And even when you're not at your best, because you're kind of wobbly after you get hit with that first one, and he's still wrestling, so you're still able to like take it to Aldo. I mean, there was even times in the 5th round where we were coming forward, landing big elbows. We're like, oh crap, we might wear him down here. So we were in it till the end. Unfortunately, Aldo's a vet. He did whatever it took to win every round, and Rob left that knowing, like he said it after, he goes, I know I can beat that guy, and it's not a disrespectful thing to Aldo. It's just he felt it. He felt it for 25 minutes, and he's like, okay, I feel this level. I know I belong here, and I know I can beat these guys. It's just every night one guy's gonna win and one guy's gonna lose, and I don't think Rob left feeling like, oh crap, I gotta change some things, or I gotta restructure everything, or I'm not good enough, I gotta get better. I think he realizes like, all right, I belong here.
Mm-hmm. And this is obviously a huge fight for Rob, against Vera. And Garrett, I don't know the odds right now. You'll look into that and see what the odds are. But I really feel like Font should be heavily favored here. Do you feel like this is one of those fights where, I mean, obviously every fight's a must win, right? You get to this level, but is there more pressure on him to just not go in there and win, but to really win impressively and decisively here?
There's pressure every fight. You lose, you're losing half your money. You lose momentum. You might lose your number. Like there's always pressure. So it's like I can't argue because there's different kinds of pressure. Is it more pressure fighting the number 8 guy when you're number 5, or is it more pressure fighting, Jose Aldo when you're number 4 and he's number 5, and he's a legend? Like I don't know what's more pressure. So I think there's always pressure. There's always going to be a way that you can spin it so it's more pressure, or spin it so it's less pressure. At the end of the day, it's like only thing that matters is those 25 minutes that we get on April 30th and who executes. And that's our whole focus right now, is to just show up on April 30th, 100% ready and ready to execute for 25 full minutes. And as long as we just focus on that, it takes a lot of the pressure off, because there's not much other than that you can control.
All right. I don't expect you to go into game planning and give all that away, but do you expect Rob to get a finish here? Do you feel like he's really going to go in there and show out come April 30th?
Yeah, we're certainly going to try for a finish. Cheeto's crafty, man. He's been in there with some great guys, and he's not a guy you're just going to put away. He's there. He can take shots. He's got good submission defense, and he's taken some solid shots and not been knocked out by him. So he's not an easy guy to put away. So if we go out there and we're able to put Cheeto away, that'll be a huge feather in Rob's cap. Obviously, Rob's a finisher, but so is Cheeto, and Cheeto's also a gamer. So I think that's what makes this such an exciting fight for the fans, is that both those guys have their finishing ability. They've both shown to be pretty durable, and they're both like want to go and hit you first. So yeah, I think it's definitely the goal. Is anytime we put a game plan together, it's like, how can we finish this guy? We're not trying to go out and just score points and skate by rounds. We're going out there trying to finish these guys in an intelligent manner to try to like get to that next fight as soon as possible, because we ain't getting paid by the minute.
Yeah, I love that answer. I can't wait for this one, April 30th. And I love the fact that Rob is headlining this one. Did you get the line on that, Garrett?
Unfortunately, yeah, there's no odds on it just yet. It'll probably come out in the coming week or so.
Yeah, we're still a little ways away. Now, Calvin Kattar, Tyson, my God, the fight that he had over Giga, the win there, that was so impressive. And I feel like that was something that he really needed too, especially after that fight with Holloway. Did you think that he was going to go in there and do that to Giga? Because he looked maybe as good as I've ever seen him.
I mean, that was certainly the plan to do that. I knew he was capable of it, but again, it comes back to when you're at the top 15 in the UFC, especially top 10, and when you start creeping into the top 5, the margin of error is so small at that. It's really kind of whoever makes this first mistake. And watching Giga's fights coming up to that, and obviously breaking down film, we saw some things that we really felt like we'd be able to take advantage of. There's obviously a ton of hype behind him, and it was warranted. He's on a 7-fight win streak, and he had just beaten some good guys, but I felt like he was still sort of untested. Barboza, when I watched that fight, Barboza didn't fight great that night. So I don't know if it was necessarily, Giga being like as scary as everybody was saying for that fight. But Barboza, I felt like I left that fight thinking Barboza kind of wasn't the most intelligent fighter that night, for how he fought in other fights. And then the fight before that, he caught Cub right away. So it's hard to tell how that fight would have gone if they actually got into some exchanges and the fight went, a little bit longer. So it was hard to tell because he had been relatively untested coming into the UFC. I think he'd fought like a couple guys with a winning record, and then his first 5 fights in the UFC, I think, and I could be hacking this, but I think the first 5 guys that he had fought had like a total of like 3 wins in the UFC. So even when he got to the UFC, he was being built, which is no problem in that. But I think when you look at the totality of it all, like what he, it wasn't like he was like 200-0 in kickboxing. He was like a pretty good kickboxer, but it wasn't like he was this death puncher and kickboxer with 200-0 with 200 knockouts or anything like that. And then he comes into MMA and he fights a bunch of turds, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. You got to build a guy. And then comes to the Contender Series, loses to a guy that didn't have success in the UFC, and then comes in the UFC and then really did his part. He won 7 fights in a row. But the first 5 that he fought, it's like, can you name any of those guys? Like, and it's no disrespect to any of them. Even some of those fights, like I thought Brandon Davis might have beat him in that fight. I thought Jamal Emmers might have beat him in that fight. So it was, it's easy to say that now, but breaking down film for this fight, I understood why the hype was there. Recency bias in MMA is a real thing. And given the fact that he had just won 7 fights in a row, beaten Barboza in a main event, looked unstoppable, and then Calvin's last fight against Max, and it's a year layoff, this and that. I get why we were such a big underdog, but I definitely didn't think when like the rubber hits the road that we should have been that big of an underdog. Because I'm like, man, I feel like this is a really good stylistically matched up fight for us. I think we hit harder. I think we're more experienced. I think we're more durable. I think we probably get the cleaner boxing. He's got the kicks, but it's like, all right, if you're gonna fight a kicker, you just gotta fight him a certain way. So to me, it all came down to if Calvin can go out on fight night and get in Giga's face and make it a fight, I'll go all in on Calvin every time on that. And unfortunately, that's kind of how it went down.
Yeah, and it really looked like Calvin kind of broke him mentally early on and just controlled that fight. And the thing about it too, Tyson, is I don't feel like a lot of people, especially like casuals, someone like you clearly understands this, but the mental side of the game, I don't feel like gets enough credit. And I think this was such a huge win for Calvin mentally, right? Like after that fight with Max, to come back and look as dominant as he did over a guy that had so much hype behind him, that really had to be, I would almost say, a turning point in his career. Would you agree with that?
It's just growth. It's just a year layoff. All these media counting you out. Everybody saying you're done. You don't got it anymore, and this and that. It's like at the end of the day, like we lost to Max Holloway. You can argue it's him, Connor, and Aldo are the 3 best ever at featherweight, and we just went 5 rounds with Max Holloway on a night that we don't really feel like we performed or didn't execute how we wanted to execute. But then on the flip side, like I've never seen Max look better. So I don't know who would have beat Max on that night. It's you kind of take that away, and it led to a frustrating year for Calvin. He wanted to get back in there, but he trusted the process. We took some time off. We tried to really work on some things and fill some holes. And I think you saw those things come out against Giga. The patience, it paid off. We came out, and they weren't doing us any favors. It wasn't like they were like, hey, you got a tough fight with Max here. We'll kind of a tune-up fight or a comeback fight. No, we're going to give you the biggest killer, the guy that everybody thinks is the best striker in the UFC. We're going to see how you do. And it's sink or swim, and, we're still swimming. So it was really big for his confidence. But I say that with caution because Calvin didn't lose confidence from the Max fight. He just was more frustrated than anything. It's like you got a chance to fight one of the best guys ever. Max is a class act. His whole team's awesome. Max is awesome. I cheer for him when he fights. But like he got a chance to try to kind of dethrone the uncrowned king, and he fell short. And it's a missed opportunity. Calvin didn't look at that fight and be like, "Damn, like I'm not that good. I'm not confident." And like he looked at that fight and said, like, "Damn it, like I need to step up and execute. Like I can't lay eggs like that. I got to be better." And that whole year off, it's like he put his head down. He showed up to training. He helped Rob get ready for some fights, and he just kept improving. So I think that just shows like kind of his mental fortitude, so to speak, regarding his career, is that like, that was a speed bump. That wasn't like a roadblock. And, I think he showed that, he bounced back exactly how I don't think there's a better way that you could bounce back other than just getting a finish.
How old is Calvin and Rob now? Are they early 30s?
Yeah, like 34, I think. I always forget which one's which. I think Calvin's 88, Rob's 87. So yeah, they're 34
Okay.
soon.
Realistically, how many more years do you feel like they have at the highest level right now? I mean, obviously they have skill sets where they could be around forever, right? But as far as like top 10, top 5 fights, like how many more fights, how many more years do you feel like they have?
It's tough because I think years ago you were kind of saying that like that 28 to 34 range for the mid-sized fighters, the mid-sized and small fighters was like, 28 to 34 was kind of the prime. That's where like you're physically the best you're at, plus mentally, and it's meshing. But I think you're starting to see some of these guys being able to go longer because they're training a lot smarter. We're not beating the hell out of each other in practice. We're training smart. We're saving those shots for the fights, and just the science behind the training now, like leveraging the PI and the strength and conditioning coaches and the way they're doing things now, like we really are training a lot smarter than even just 5 years ago. And then obviously the access to physical therapy and the access to recovery and all that stuff, you're starting to see that. And like, I'm with these guys at strength and conditioning, and they're not slowing down yet. It's not like I'm starting to see them like, oh, okay, well, you're older now, you're going to be slower. It's like none of that's happening. And you're starting to see a lot of athletes be able to perform well into their late 30s and seem like they're just as quick as when they were in their late 20s. So obviously every fighter is unique and every fighter is a different, scenario or case, but both these guys, like they're still getting better. I'm not seeing it in sparring that they're slowing down or anything like that. Their recovery is still the same. It's not like it's taking longer for them to recover from different things. I can push them just as hard at camp as I could 4 years ago. So all signs are pointing to like, obviously you always take it one fight at a time, but like there's no thoughts like that in our camp of like, okay, like we're nearing the end or anything like that. Like I think they both got years left in them and good fights. And the goal is to just keep improving every camp and then see where it takes us.
Yeah, hopefully they're both around for a lot longer. Arnold Allen looked pretty darn good dispatching of Dan Hooker this past weekend, and Calvin's name was mentioned as a potential next opponent. Run me through your thought process on that. Is that something that excites you, and do you feel like that could be his next matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're gonna call out a guy and say I want to fight you, don't put stipulations on timelines. Like just be like, hey, listen, I just beat a guy in the first round. I'm healthy. Like, when can we fight? Because I think that's Arnold's biggest problem is he's 9-0 in the UFC, but he's got no momentum. And for a lot of people, like, you can ask a lot of people, and they're like, oh, I've never seen Arnold Allen fight. And that's no knock on his skill. The kid's a stud. He's 9-0 in the UFC for a reason. He's legitimately, like, I think they moved him up to 6. So we're 5, he's 6. The fight makes sense. But, we told the media the other day, like, they reached out after the call out, and I said, yeah, we're ready to go in June. And then right away he's like, well, I need more time than that. It's like, what do you need more time for? You came out of that fight uninjured, parlay that win in that camp into a 10-week camp for us, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it is, March, April, May, June. So you still got 3 months. Parlay that into a June fight with us. And it seems like that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of our style. Obviously every team thinks a little bit differently, but if, we fought Stevens and came out a little banged up, and then they offered us a main event a month later, and we took it. So I don't know. There's different ways to do it, but I think if you're gonna say someone's name on the microphone, then especially if they're ranked higher than you and they agree to say yes, I'll fight you, I'll fight down to fight you, then you gotta kind of like you gotta compromise a little bit too. You can't just make everything on your terms. Okay, I want to fight the guy ahead of me, and I want to fight on this month. It's like you can't have everything, like if you're going to fight up, you got to kind of, be willing to compromise a little bit, give a little wiggle room, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, like if we're sitting here at number 6 and the number 5 guy turns around and says, yeah, we'll fight you in June. Like, you better believe we're doing it. So I don't know. I guess everybody, different ways to skin a cat, but we're open to it. We'll just see, obviously it depends what the UFC says.
Man, I'd love to see that. The June time frame, Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen, sign me up. That would be fantastic. I do want to talk a little bit more about, the New England Cartel and kind of like the next generation, Tyson, because you guys have done an amazing job like marketing yourself as, Boston's fifth team. And with the sport of MMA just growing the way that it is, I know you're going to have a lot of fighters that are going to be that next generation. So give me a couple of names that come to mind for you that, few years from now, once Calvin and Rob, make that transition into what's next for them, who are those next guys that are here in New England that are with you that, really could be household names?
Yeah, it gets a little blurry sometimes because there's a lot of guys that I manage that aren't necessarily on the cartel, and then there's, the cartel is really right now. It's four fighters. It's Rob, Calvin, and then Nick Fiore, who's 4-0 with 4 first-round finishes, and Tom Pags, who's 3-1. Both those guys are studs. I fully expect in another year and a half, both of them to be in the UFC. They're training with Rob and Calvin every day. They're training like professionals. They're both like 24 years old. They're just like soaking up everything. They're literally just training like Rob and Calvin do. They're in the room with us. They're doing strength and conditioning. Diets are on point. Like, these guys are training already like top 5 UFC fighters, and then they get to soak up that knowledge from those guys on the mats every day. So then when they go into their fights, they're like, well, this guy ain't Rob. This guy ain't Calvin. So it's good, and we only have 4 fighters by design. When we started this thing a few years back, I said we're taking a boxing approach. I'm going to just focus on a few fighters and go all in and bring in the best coaches and training partners and put them around you and build camps around you, not you building your camp around the gym. So it's by design. We do have like other fighters reaching out to the gym, reaching out to us and asking if they can come camp with us, and the answer is usually no. We let people come across train and stuff like that, and we try to give back. But at the end of the day, like, I coach 4 guys, and that's on purpose.
Okay. When can we expect to see Tom in there next? I know he had the first loss of his pro career. It was a split decision against another tough fella. When do you feel like Palirula is going to be fighting again here next? Hopefully summertime, maybe?
Yeah, he broke his foot in that fight, was finally recovered, and then he was supposed to fight last weekend, but he had to pull out because he tore his LCL training. He hurt his knee, and then now he's rehabbing that. So it looks like we're targeting probably June. He'll probably come back and fight in June, and that'll be good. Get him to 4-1, and yeah, he works hard, man. He's a good kid, young kid. He's just always trying to learn. He's like always trying to grow mentally. He's asking the right questions, and he's a really good teammate to Rob and Calvin and Nick too.
And Justin Sumter, this is a guy that, the MMA fans out there know. He's fought on Contender Series, and, he's signed under Top Game Management. He's fighting for the CES middleweight world title against Eric Spicely around the corner. Do you feel like Sumter is going to take those steps and get into the UFC? Because he's someone that I really love interviewing, but I also feel like his skill set is super underrated.
Yeah, I think he's had 2 opportunities on the Contender Series now. He just, unfortunately, he fell short both times. He has everything that it takes to be successful in the UFC. In that fight against Ian Heinisch, like, he, got Ian down, took his back, everything, just got a little high, and then, got dumped off and finished. But, it's exciting every time he fights because, when Justin's on, he's like dangerous. He's well-rounded. He's good on the feet. He's good on the ground. He's super athletic. He hits hard. He's strong, and he's like a superhuman. Like, he's just awesome. Like, awesome kid to be around. Very respectful, very professional. So those are the kids you like to root for. And yeah, it's another big moment for him going against a UFC veteran like Eric. And the plan is to go out there, get it done, and then see what doors that opens.
Yeah, excited to see that fight here right around the corner for CES. Now, as far as other sports go, just here in the Boston area, are you paying attention to the Celtics in the upcoming season for the Red Sox? Are you still? Because I know you're a big sports fan like myself. So is that something you're really keeping your ear to the grindstone on?
Bro, as I get busier in MMA, I have to make compromises because I got 3 kids and I got a wife. They fight for my attention too. So I had to like barter to get like sports time that's non-MMA. I watch all the UFC fights. But recently I got into F1 racing, like Formula One. And I'm a big Formula One fan. I watch all the races. They're usually early Sunday mornings. They just had the first race last weekend. I'm depressed because Red Bull lost. And I never got into racing. I never liked any sort of racing my whole life. And now I watch, last season was the first season I watched, and now I watch this season. So I really don't pay much attention to the Boston sports anymore. I watched the Patriots and, follow them. But after college, I stopped watching the Bruins and the Celtics. I just didn't have time. And then, if they're in the playoffs, I'll tune in. I'm kind of a fair weather fan that way. But pretty much just Patriots, Formula One, and MMA.
Okay, well, you need to clarify this for me because I'm taking a lot of heat from some of my Patriots friends. I have so many friends that are huge Pats fans, right? And I'm a huge Tom Brady. I mean, I got a man crush on him. I'm just going to get that out there and tell you. I think the guy is just amazing in every way. So I still follow him. I follow the Bucks. Does that make me a bad Pats fan? Because if the Bucks were playing the Pats, I'm cheering for the Pats.
No, I did a podcast the other day with Ninkovich, the Patriots player, and I kind of said it like, I feel like 10 years ago, that would have made us a bad fan if you're still cheering for Brady, even though he's not on the Pats. But nowadays, I feel like there's being a shift because of social media. You feel like you're connected to the players more, but also because of fantasy football. I feel like people are like becoming just as big of fans of players as they are just teams. Like there's a lot of people that like, oh, I love Tom Brady, so I like the Patriots. But now that Tom Brady's on the Bucks, they're like, but I'm a Patriots fan, but I'll cheer for the Bucks if the Patriots don't win, and that's because they love Tom Brady. And I think you're starting to see a lot more of that. And like with fantasy football, you find yourself like cheering for another quarterback because you don't have Tom Brady on your team. So like maybe you're a big Aaron Rodgers fan this year because you got him on your team and you're cheering for him. And then through that experience, you start like, oh, I kind of don't mind Aaron Rodgers. And then, you sort of like the Packers that year, so I think there's a little bit of that going on. And I don't think it makes you a bad person. There's probably other things that make you a bad person, but I don't think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for saving me on that one. I can't help it. I love Tom Brady. What do you want from me, Tyson? It's always great to talk to you, man. Again, the head coach of the England Cartel, owner of Top Game Management. Before I let you go, man, we want to give you the floor. Tell people where to follow you on social media. If you have anything you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Instagram, Tyson_Chartier. You can follow me there. I'm usually posting funny stuff about the guys. Upcoming fights and stuff like that as well. And then the link into my bio goes to the New England Cartel store. We have a bunch of swag up there for sale, so take a look, buy a hoodie. We appreciate the support. It's been a lot bigger than we thought it would when we first launched the store. So it's cool to see, like, I'll people sending me pictures from other states. They're like, oh, I was just in Walmart and I saw a guy walk by with your shirt on, and that's kind of surreal. It's a pretty cool thing.
We have to thank Tyson Chartier for joining us here today. Always great talking to him. Very insightful to have someone like him, a coach with such high-level fighters, to come on and talk to us about what's going on in their career. So thank you, Tyson, for giving us a few minutes of your day. Now, Garrett, we have UFC Columbus this Saturday, headlined by Curtis Blaydes and Chris Daukaus. Let's dive right in, man. Let's talk about some of these fights. Who do you like from a betting perspective here on this one?
Very tough looking fight card, top to bottom. A lot of close fights. It's not like one of the best when it comes to betting, but some of the lines that kind of stood out to me, obviously they've been hit a little bit by now, but I got Ilir Latifi at -150 earlier in the week. I just feel he's the right side here. You got Oleinik, he's pushing 41, 42 years old. He's at the tail end of his career, coming off 3 consecutive losses, all inside the distance. I do believe Latifi will win the fight on the feet if he wants to keep it there. And as long as he just doesn't get subbed early on, he should probably just wear on, Oleinik throughout the fight and eventually finish him late or, get the decision win. I just don't see, as long as he doesn't get Ezekiel choked while he's on top of him, I think I'm pretty confident he should be able to get a pretty easy win here. Another fighter that I'm looking at is Brian Barberena, -105 over Matt Brown. I know Matt Brown is a hometown favorite here coming in Columbus, Ohio. But Matt Brown, another guy, 41 years old, tail end of his career. He looked good in his last fight, but it was also against Diego Lima, who just retired as well. Barberena, only 32 years old, which is kind of crazy. This guy's been in the UFC for a while, and you would think he's older than 32, but he's 9 years younger than Brown. I don't think he has durability issues whatsoever, and he's going against a guy that does have a bunch of durability issues, especially this late in his career. I think Barberena and Brown are going to come in there, throw down, and I just think Barberena is going to be able to be out durable and just cardio him and just put the pace and the pressure and eventually finish him late and get into the win column again and keep a winning streak going. He beat a good prospect in Darian Weeks the last time out, so I think I think this is a good fight for him, good matchup.
There's another welterweight bout on this card that I'm interested in. It's Neil Magny and Max Griffin. Break this one down for us. Who, from a betting perspective, and just who you think is going to actually win?
This is a good matchup. I think it's a pretty sizable step up for Max Griffin as well. Max Griffin has looked good. I believe he's riding a 3-fight win streak, but I just think it's a lot lower level competition than Neil Magny. I mean, you're going from 3 guys not even ranked in the top 15 to a guy that used to be ranked top 5 in the welterweight division, or top 10 at least for the most part of his entire career. He's super durable. He's hard to deal with. He's got a super long reach, good wrestling, knows how to keep distance very well. And I do think since this fight is in a 30-foot octagon, not in the Apex, at a 25-foot octagon, I think will help Neil Magny even more to use his reach. I don't think Max Griffin's going to be able to just walk him down, stay in his face, and put the pace and the pressure on him. And then eventually I do think Magny will be able to take this to the floor when he wants, whenever he wants, just like he's done in the past to his other opponents. I think this is a good matchup for Magny, and I think he gets it done. I like Max Griffin, but I just think this is a bad matchup for him. I think Magny's just got him beat pretty much everywhere.
Let's move to the little guys. Askarev, Kattar of France. Woo! This could be fight of the night. Like, both of these guys are high level. Break this one down for us, Garrett. Who's going to get the W here?
Oh man, this is a great fight. Supposedly this is not the #1 contender fight. I'm not sure why. I was told that Alexandre Pantoja and Brandon Royval is actually the #1 contender fight, but this should be the #1 contender fight, and this is going to be an absolute scrap between these two. Askarev, great wrestler. He's shown that he's got some power too. We saw in the Benavidez fight, and he was able to knock him down. He's looked impressive. His only drawback was his fight against Moreno, which went to a draw. He's still undefeated. The sky's the limit for him. He hasn't fought in about a year's time, and we got question marks surrounding is he okay to be in there? I mean, I know he's had injuries leading up into this fight, so we'll see how he does with the long layoff. I don't think he normally has, over a year's time off in between fights, but we'll see how that goes. And then Kattar of France, the dude's been, outstanding as of late. I mean, he came in and starched, Cody Garbrandt. He's looking good. He starched Rogerio Bontorin. He's got power. His movement is super quick on the feet. He's got even good takedown defense from what we've seen. And I do think this is going to be a tough fight for Askarev, especially at the line given. Askarev is a -365 favorite. I think that line is severely off. Whether I win or lose on this bet on Kattar of France, I'm okay with it at +300. I mean, that's a sweet spot. I will take Kattar of France against anybody in the flyweight division at +300. I mean, he has a game-changing power in his hands, and he's very active on his feet. He's someone that will fight for your money regardless. He even got dropped against Royval, and he was able to drop Royval right back. So, I mean, the dude is going to fight for your money, and I just feel, taking him at +300, I think is a steal of a price. And whether he gets dominated or not, I'm okay with that at that price tag.
All right, let's take a peek at one or two of the fights on the undercard. Give us a fight that stands out to you that you feel like maybe you could win some money on here on the undercard.
Oh man, it's tough because there's a lot of wonky lines on the undercard, but Ferro is obviously the one that stands out to me. I know she's a -450 favorite, so that's why we're going to take her inside the distance at +190. I think she comes in there and finishes Maya. We've seen that Maya can get hit. She's not going to have any chance of winning this fight on the feet. She's going to be trying to get in the clinch and take it down, just like she did in the Shevchenko fight. And I don't think she's going to be able to be strong enough to get it down there because her offensive grappling is pretty much non-existent. That was like the outlier. When she fought Shevchenko, that was the outlier. We would think she was going to go in there and do that against Chikagian and Jennifer and Jessica Ai. And she didn't do any of that. She just went in there and she's standing there and was trading, which is very odd because, I feel like she had a clear grappling advantage against both of them. So I feel like her game plan is going to change. I think she's going to try to go for takedowns. She's going to be unsuccessful. She's going to tire herself out. And then Ferro's just going to be a fury of kicks, unleashed at distance, use her long range attacks, something that she's really never seen other than, against Shevchenko. Those two by far are the best strikers in that entire division. And I feel like she's going to get another finish. And plus 190, that's actually not bad. I mean, she finishes a lot of her opponents, and she's very vicious on the feet. So I'm taking her to win inside the distance at plus 190. Another thing I'm really looking forward to is betting on Carol Hosa, right? Carol Hosa or Rosa? I don't know. Either way. I like her here. Minus 220. I think it's we're getting value on her. She's looked really good in her time in the UFC. She's a far better striker than McMahon. And we know what you're getting from McMahon. She's going to go in there. She's going to take you down round one, possibly win round one. You're going to drop round one, and then you're going to coast from there and just beat her ass from rounds 2 and 3 because she fades every single fight. And there's going to be no difference here. She's 41 years old. She's not in her peak, form at this time. She's a mother, of 2 children, I believe. So she's doing motherly things. She's a mother. She's, doing other things and just training all day, every day. Well, Carol is getting way better, and she's looked great in her time as it is, and she's just progressing and progressing. And I feel like this is her coming out party against a really tough, competitor. And I think she could get it done. And I like her to win, in round 2. I think for her to win in round 2 is plus 650. For her to win in round 3, plus 1,000. I do think she gets a finish. If you sprinkle a little bit on a round 2 prop and a round 3 prop, I think you can get some pretty good money there.
All right. Well, UFC Columbus. I'm just excited that they're out of the Apex and there's going to be screaming fans around. I'm sure we'll have Bisping or Felder there doing the color commentary, but it's a decent card. I mean, it's not the best card. We've been kind of spoiled lately, if we're going to be honest, with some really stacked cards. But there's a few fights on here that I'm really looking forward to. But again, we got to thank our guest today, Tyson Chartier, the head coach of New England Cartel, owner of Top Game Management, for joining us. And we'll be back with another great guest for you guys next week. So until then, for Garrett Kerman, I'm Ryan Jarrell. We will see you next week.